I used to think my cousin Rachel was my best friend. We grew up together, shared secrets, planned our futures side by side. But when a dream job came between us, she didn't just compete with me, she destroyed me. And when I found out what she'd done, I made sure she lost something worth way more than any job. This is the story of how my cousin sabotaged my career, and how I cost her $3.2 million. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Emily and I'm 29 years old. If you'd asked me 6 months ago to describe my relationship with my cousin Rachel, I would have smiled and told you she was more than family, she was my person. We weren't just cousins, we were best friends who happened to share DNA. Rachel's 2 years older than me, and growing up, that felt significant. She was the cool older cousin, the one who let me tag along to parties, who taught me how to do my makeup, who stayed up late with me talking about our dreams. Our family isn't small, but it's tight-knit in that suffocating way wealthy families often are. My grandfather, Harrison, is 75 now, and he built his fortune in commercial real estate back then. He's got that old-school mentality about success and legacy. There are 6 grandchildren total, but if you'd asked any of us who the favorite was, we'd all say the same name without hesitation: Rachel. I told myself for years that I didn't mind. Family dynamics are complicated, right? Somebody's always going to be the golden child. Rachel was beautiful, charismatic, successful. She worked in corporate communications, had this effortless way of commanding a room. Of course grandfather adored her. Of course he lit up when she walked in. I convinced myself her competitiveness was just her pushing me to be better, that her little digs were sisterly teasing, that I was being too sensitive when her comments stung. I'd been working in marketing for 5 years, grinding it out at a mid-level firm where I was consistently passed over for promotions. I was good at my job, no, I was great at it, but I was stuck. So when the position opened up at Collins and Weber, one of the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the region, I felt like the universe was finally aligning. Marketing director, 6-figure salary, the kind of role that could change everything. I was so excited I could barely contain myself at family dinner that Sunday. We do these dinners every week at grandfather's estate, mandatory attendance, formal dress code, the whole production. I remember waiting until dessert was served, then clearing my throat. "I have some news," I said, trying to sound casual even though my heart was racing. I applied for a position at Collins and Weber, marketing director role. I got a call back for an interview. My mom squeezed my hand under the table. A few cousins congratulated me. Grandfather nodded absently, already turning back to something Rachel was saying about her latest campaign. But Rachel's eyes went wide, and for a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Then she broke into this huge smile and reached across the table to grab my hand. "Oh my God, Em, that's amazing. You know what?" She laughed, like the idea had just occurred to her. "I've been thinking about a career pivot. Marketing has always interested me. Maybe I'll apply too." My stomach dropped, just absolutely plummeted, but I kept smiling because what else could I do? We were at dinner. Everyone was watching. And besides, I told myself, this is healthy competition. Rachel has every right to apply. May the best woman win, right? "That would be great," I said, and my voice only shook a little. May the best woman win. Rachel's smile got wider. "Exactly. I mean, they'd be lucky to have either of us. But especially you, Em. You've worked so hard for this." My mom caught my eye and gave me this look, the one that said we'd talk about it later. After dinner, she pulled me aside in the hallway. "Just focus on yourself, honey," she said quietly. "Don't worry about Rachel." But how could I not worry? Rachel was brilliant, polished, connected. And suddenly this dream job felt less like an opportunity and more like another competition I was going to lose. The first interview went incredibly well. I walked out of that building feeling 10 feet tall. The hiring manager, David Campbell, seemed genuinely impressed. He asked smart questions, laughed at my jokes, took detailed notes. When they called me back for a second round, I let myself believe this might actually happen. Rachel kept asking questions. "What's the hiring manager's name? What's the office culture like? What kind of questions are they asking?" I told her everything because that's what we did, we shared everything. I trusted her completely. She was weirdly secretive about her own interview process. When I'd ask how it went, she'd just smile and say, "Good, I think. We'll see." I told myself she was being modest, that she was respecting the boundary between us as competitors. The second interview felt wrong from the moment I walked in. David Campbell was cold, professional in a way that felt forced. He asked pointed questions about reliability, about past workplace issues, about whether I'd ever had problems with substance abuse. I was completely blindsided. I'm sorry, what? No, I've never, my record is spotless. I don't understand where this is coming from. He gave me this tight smile. Just standard questions we ask all candidates. But they weren't. I could feel it. Something had poisoned the well, and I left that building with my hands shaking and my chest tight. The rejection email came 3 days later. Vague, impersonal. We've decided to go in another direction. I cried for an hour, then pulled myself together and tried to be mature about it. 2 days after that, Rachel got the job. The family celebration at grandfather's house was torture. Champagne, toasts, grandfather practically glowing with pride. Always knew you were destined for greatness, Rachel, he said, raising his glass. I forced myself to smile, to hug her, to say congratulations. Rachel gave this gracious little speech about hard work and letting qualifications speak for themselves, and I wanted to disappear into the floor. That night, I went home and sobbed into my pillow, telling myself I was being petty, that I just wasn't good enough, that I needed to be happy for her. But then it happened again, and again. 4 companies in 2 months. Same pattern every time. Great first interview, weird second interview asking about problems I'd never had, rejection. My mental health was spiraling. I was questioning everything about myself. Then my phone rang. My college friend Melissa, who I hadn't talked to in months. Emily, she said, and her voice was shaking. We need to talk. It's about Rachel. The coffee shop was nearly empty when I met Melissa the next morning. She looked nervous, kept fidgeting with her cup, wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Melissa and I were roommates in college, stayed close for years after graduation, but life got busy and we drifted. I hadn't even known she worked at Collins and Weber until she called. I almost didn't reach out, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to get involved. But Emily, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you. My heart was already racing. Tell me what? She took a deep breath. Rachel didn't just compete with you for that job, she sabotaged you. The words didn't make sense at first. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline, for her to say she was joking. But Melissa's face was dead serious. I work in a different department, but the corporate world is small. People talk. I heard David Campbell, your hiring manager, mention something to a colleague about a candidate with substance abuse issues. He seemed genuinely concerned, said someone had reached out to warn him before the final interview. She paused, watching my reaction. Emily, that candidate was you. I felt cold all over. That's insane. I don't even drink that much. Who would say something like that? That's what I needed to find out. I did some digging, called in a favor with someone in HR. Melissa pulled out her phone, her hands shaking slightly. 3 weeks before your final interview, David received a call from someone claiming to be Jennifer Martinez, your former colleague. This person told him you'd been fired from your previous job for showing up drunk to client meetings, that you were unreliable, that the company had covered it up to avoid a lawsuit. The room was spinning. Jennifer Martinez? I've never worked with anyone by that name. I know. Because she doesn't exist. David tried to verify the story, and someone responded to his email from what looked like a legitimate corporate address. When you seemed nervous in your interview, and who wouldn't be after those accusations, it confirmed everything he'd been told. But who would? And then it hit me. The only person who knew every detail about my interview process. The only person who'd asked so many questions about David Campbell, about the timeline, about everything. No, Rachel wouldn't. Emily. Melissa's voice was gentle but firm. There's more. I think she's done this before. That's when something inside me cracked open. I started thinking back, really thinking, about the past few years. My cousin Jake, who'd lost that business partnership opportunity 2 years ago, Rachel had been so interested in it, asking him questions, offering to help. My cousin Sophie, mysteriously uninvited from a prestigious art exhibition after Rachel happened to meet the curator at some event. I left the coffee shop in a daze and went straight home. I needed to know if I was crazy, if I was connecting dots that weren't there. My hands shook as I called Jake. Hey, what's up? Jake, I need to ask you something about that partnership deal that fell through. The one with Marcus Smith's firm. There was a long pause. Why are you asking about that? Just, please. Did anything seem off about how it ended? Another pause, longer this time. You're going to think I'm paranoid, but yeah. Marcus mentioned hearing concerning things about my business ethics from someone close to me. He wouldn't say who, said he'd promised confidentiality. The whole thing felt wrong, but I couldn't prove anything, so I let it go. My throat felt tight. Did Rachel know about the partnership? She knew everything. She was so supportive, kept asking how it was going, offering advice. She even said she'd put in a good word if. He stopped. Oh my God, Emily, are you saying? I need to call Sophie. I'll call you back. Sophie's story was nearly identical. Someone had warned the curator that she was difficult, unprofessional, would make the exhibition a nightmare. Sophie had been devastated, never found out who torpedoed her opportunity. But yes, Rachel had known all the details. Rachel had been so sympathetic. I made more calls. Marcus, Lisa, David Jr., 3 other cousins. Every single one had a story. Opportunities that mysteriously evaporated after Rachel showed unusual interest. Rumors that appeared out of nowhere. Doors that slammed shut for reasons no one could quite explain. And then it all made sense. Grandfather's will. We all knew about it. He'd made no secret that his estate, worth about $15 million, would be divided among the grandchildren. But the shares weren't equal. They were based on merit, on success, on who proved themselves worthy of the family legacy. Rachel had been systematically eliminating the competition. I called an emergency meeting with Jake, Sophie, Marcus, Lisa, and David Jr. at my apartment that evening. We sat around my living room, and I laid out everything I'd discovered. The anger in that room was palpable, but it was mixed with something else, fear. We can't prove any of this, Marcus said. It's all circumstantial. And if we accuse her without proof, we'll look like we're ganging up on the golden child. She'll destroy us, Lisa added quietly. You know she will. And grandfather will never believe us over her. But I was done. Years of rage I'd been swallowing came flooding up. Every backhanded compliment at family dinners. Every time Rachel had made me feel small while pretending to build me up. Every time I'd told myself I was being too sensitive, that I was imagining things. She's already destroyed us, I said, and my voice came out harder than I'd intended. She just did it quietly, one by one, so we wouldn't realize what was happening. I'm done protecting someone who's been tearing this family apart from the inside. Sophie leaned forward. So what do? We get proof. Real, undeniable proof. And we make sure grandfather sees exactly who Rachel really is. How? Jake asked. I'd been thinking about this since leaving the coffee shop. I knew Rachel's weakness, her ego, her overconfidence, her absolute certainty that she was untouchable. We give her another target, I said. We make her think I'm going after something big. And we watch her do exactly what she always does. Over the next hour, we planned everything. Marcus, who worked in tech, would help create the infrastructure. Sophie would handle the creative elements. Jake would be my inside man. It was risky, maybe even crazy, but it was the only way. 2 days later, I called Rachel. Kept my voice excited, a little desperate. I know I've been wallowing, I told her. But I found something amazing. A startup called Meridian Digital Solutions. The founder is a family friend of Mom's. They're looking for a head of marketing, and it's basically mine if I want it. I could practically hear Rachel's ears perk up through the phone. That's wonderful, she said, and I knew that tone. I'd heard it before every disaster. Tell me more about it. I gave her exactly 2 weeks. That's all the rope she needed to hang herself. The fake company came together faster than I'd expected. Marcus built a legitimate-looking website for Meridian Digital Solutions, sleek design, fake employee profiles, even a bogus portfolio of clients. Sophie created LinkedIn accounts for the executive team with professional headshots from stock photo sites. We set up a business phone line that forwarded to Sophie's cell, and she practiced using a voice modulator until she could sound like a professional HR manager named Patricia Wells. I fed Rachel breadcrumbs all week. Casual mentions at family dinner about how excited I was, how this felt like my big break. She asked all the right questions, her eyes gleaming with that familiar competitive hunger I'd been blind to for so many years. What's the founder's name? When's your interview? What's the company culture like? I told her everything, watching her absorb every detail like she was planning a military campaign. 3 days after I'd mentioned Meridian, Sophie got an email. The subject line read concerns about candidate Emily Johnson. It was from Jennifer Martinez, the same fake identity Rachel had used before. Sophie recorded her screen as she opened it. The email detailed my supposed drinking problem, my unreliability, even included a fake incident about me missing a major client presentation because I was hungover. It was thorough, calculated, and absolutely damning if anyone believed it. But we needed more than an email from a fake account. We needed Rachel's voice, her own words condemning her. That's where Jake came in. He called Rachel one evening and I listened on speaker as he pretended to be drunk and frustrated. "I just don't get it," Jake slurred convincingly. "Emily's going for this Meridian job like nothing happened. After everything at her last place, you'd think she'd have some self-awareness." There was a pause. I could almost see Rachel leaning in, unable to resist. "What do you mean, what happened at her last place?" Rachel asked, her voice careful. "Come on, Ratch. The drinking thing. Everyone knows." "Jake, I don't think you should be talking about this." "I mean, I heard she had some serious problems," Jake continued. "With alcohol. I'm surprised she's still trying for these big positions, you know. It's kind of embarrassing for the family." Another pause, longer this time. Then Rachel made her fatal mistake. "Well, between you and me, I've heard similar things. I think she needs help, honestly. Someone should probably let these companies know before she damages their reputation too." "Wait," Jake said, his voice suddenly clearer. "How did you know about the drinking thing?" "I thought that was just something I heard." Rachel backtracked immediately, but it was too late. I just meant in general. People talk." "I should go, Jake." The line went dead, but we had what we needed. Jake had recorded everything. Over the next 2 weeks, we compiled our evidence like we were building a legal case. Recorded phone calls, screenshots of the fake email accounts Rachel had created, traced back to IP addresses Marcus identified. Testimony from David Campbell at Collins and Weber. Melissa had convinced him to go on record once he realized he'd been manipulated. A detailed timeline showing 8 sabotaged opportunities across 4 years, each one corresponding with Rachel's increased favor in grandfather's eyes. I created a presentation on my laptop. Simple, devastating, impossible to deny. The title slide just said the truth about Rachel. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I called Grandfather Harrison and asked for a private meeting. I brought Jake and Sophie as witnesses. We drove to his estate on a Tuesday afternoon, and I felt like I might throw up the entire way there. Grandfather met us in his study, looking annoyed at the interruption. He's imposing even in his 70s, tall, stern, with eyes that miss nothing. "Emily, if this is about the Collins and Weber position, you need to understand that competition is healthy." Rachel simply, "Grandfather, please." My voice cracked. "Just watch this. Please." I set up my laptop on his desk. He settled into his chair, arms crossed, clearly humoring me. I hit play. The first few slides laid out the timeline. His expression shifted from irritation to confusion. Then came the emails, the phone records, David Campbell's testimony. With each piece of evidence, Grandfather's face changed. The color drained from his cheeks. His jaw tightened. When Jake's recording played, Rachel's voice, cold and calculating, admitting she'd heard about my supposed drinking problem, suggesting someone should warn companies, Grandfather closed his eyes. The presentation ended with a financial analysis Sophie had put together, showing how Rachel's inheritance share had steadily increased as the rest of us failed to meet our potential. The correlation was undeniable. The room was silent for what felt like hours. Grandfather stared at the blank screen, his hands gripping the arms of his chair so hard his knuckles were white. "She did this to her own family." His voice was barely a whisper. "For money. For your approval," I said quietly. "And yes, for the inheritance. She wanted to be the golden child so badly she was willing to destroy all of us to keep that position." Grandfather stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to us. His shoulders sagged in a way I'd never seen before. "I built my fortune on integrity," he said finally. "On honest work and fair competition. This is..." He couldn't finish the sentence. He turned to face us, and I was shocked to see tears in his eyes. "I need to speak with Rachel." "But Emily..." His voice broke. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't see this. I'm sorry I made you all feel like you had to compete for my love." "That's your choice about Rachel," I said. "But I needed you to know who she really is." He called his lawyer that afternoon. I didn't stay to hear the conversation. 2 weeks later, Grandfather called a family meeting. Rachel walked in looking confident, beautiful in a designer dress, completely unaware. Grandfather announced the changes to his will in front of everyone. Rachel's $3.2 million share would be redistributed among the other grandchildren and several local charities. I watched the color drain from Rachel's face. She looked around the room wildly, trying to understand. Then her eyes landed on me, and I saw the moment she realized. "You," she whispered. "This was you." Grandfather cut her off before she could continue. "I have heard the recordings, Rachel. I have seen the evidence. You are still my granddaughter, and I love you. But you will not profit from destroying your family." Rachel looked at me with pure hatred. "You'll regret this." I met her gaze steadily. "You taught me that actions have consequences, Rachel. I just made sure yours finally caught up with you." She stormed out. Half the family followed her, torn between loyalty and disgust. The other half stayed, and we sat in shocked silence. 3 months have passed now. I got offered a position at a different Fortune 500 company, no sabotage this time. Rachel moved to Chicago, cut off from most of the family. We don't speak. I don't feel great about what happened. Rachel is still family, and part of me wonders if there was another way. But I don't regret it either. She made her choices and I made mine. Sometimes protecting yourself means burning a bridge, and sometimes that bridge was already on fire, you just couldn't see it through the smoke. The job, I start Monday. And this time I earned it fair and square. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and feel free to share your story or opinions in the comments.